Think about the last time you were in a negotiation, or an argument, or trying to impress someone. You probably talked. A lot. Explained yourself, defended your position, filled every silence. Big mistake, because the person who talks the most loses. This is Law 4 from the 48 Laws of Power. Always say less than necessary. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why silence is the most powerful weapon you have. Let me tell you 3 stories and ask yourself, who has more power? The person who talks or the person who stays silent? Story 1. China, 260 AD. The great general Chuko Liang is resting in a small town with only 100 soldiers. Suddenly, scouts bring terrifying news. An enemy army of 150,000 troops is approaching, led by Sima Yi, one of the greatest military minds in history. Chuko Liang is trapped, outnumbered 1,500 to 1. There's no time to escape, no reinforcements, no way out. Any normal general would panic, barricade the gates, prepare for a desperate last stand, send messengers begging for help. But Chuko Liang does something no one expects. He orders his soldiers to hide. He throws open the city gates. He takes down all the flags, and then he sits on top of the city wall in plain view, wearing a Taoist robe. He lights incense, and he starts playing the lute. Minutes later, Sima Yi's massive army arrives. They see the open gates, no guards, no defenses, and sitting on the wall, calmly playing music, is Chuko Liang. Sima Yi stops. He stares at the general. He knows Liang's reputation. Brilliant, cunning, always 3 steps ahead, and now he's sitting there alone playing the lute like he's waiting for them. Sima Yi thinks, this is a trap. It has to be. Liang wouldn't just sit there unless he had thousands of soldiers hiding inside, or an ambush planned, or some trick I haven't seen yet. He orders his army to retreat, 150,000 soldiers, turn around and leave. Chuko Liang never said a word. He didn't explain. He didn't threaten. He didn't negotiate. He just sat there, silent, mysterious, unreadable. And because Sima Yi couldn't figure out what he was thinking, he filled in the blanks himself, with his own paranoia, his own fear. Silence made Liang's bluff perfect. If he had spoken, Sima Yi would have heard the fear in his voice. If he had sent messengers, they would have revealed his weakness. But by saying nothing, he let his enemy imagine the worst. Now, here's the question. How many times have you ruined your own bluff by talking too much? You're negotiating a salary. The offer is on the table. And instead of staying silent, letting them sweat, you fill the gap with nervous chatter. You justify, you explain, you accidentally reveal your desperation, or you're in an argument, you've made your point, but instead of letting it land, you keep talking. You over-explain. You weaken your position with every extra word. The person who talks the most thinks they're winning, but they're actually hemorrhaging power. Let me give you story 2, and this one's about a man who made silence into an art form, Louis XIV, the Sun King, the most powerful monarch in Europe. And here's what people said about him. No one could ever tell what he was thinking. Louis almost never spoke in council meetings. He would sit there, expressionless, as his ministers debated. They would argue, plead, try to convince him, and he would just listen. Then, after everyone had exhausted themselves, he would say a single sentence, sometimes just a word, and that was the decision. Final, absolute. His ministers were terrified of this because they had no idea what he wanted. They couldn't read him, so they would talk and talk, trying to fill the silence, trying to gauge his reaction. And with every word, they revealed their own agendas, their weaknesses, their desperation. Louis didn't need to talk. His silence did the work for him. Compare that to King Charles I of England. Charles loved to talk. He would explain his decisions, justify his actions, engage in long debates with Parliament, and every time he opened his mouth, he gave his enemies ammunition. They learned how he thought. They saw his insecurities. They used his own words against him. Charles I was beheaded by his own people. Louis XIV ruled for 72 years and died in his bed, the most powerful king in the world. The lesson? The more you say, the more common you appear. The less you say, the more weight every word carries. Now think about the people you know who command respect. The ones who walk into a room and everyone pays attention. Do they talk all the time? Or do they speak rarely? But when they do, everyone listens? Silence creates mystery, and mystery creates power. Let me give you story 3. The poet Kondraty Ryleyev, Russia, 1825. Ryleyev was a revolutionary. He led a rebellion against the new Tsar, Nicholas I. The rebellion failed. Ryleyev was sentenced to death by hanging. On the day of the execution, Ryleyev stood on the gallows. The noose around his neck. The trapdoor opened, and he fell. But the rope broke. Ryleyev crashed to the ground, bruised and shaken, but alive. At the time, this was considered a sign from God. A man who survived his own execution was usually pardoned. It was tradition, divine intervention. Ryleyev got to his feet. The crowd was watching. The executioners were stunned. A messenger was about to run to the Tsar with news of the miracle. All Ryleyev had to do was stay silent. Wait, let the pardon come. But he didn't. He looked at the crowd and said, "You see? In Russia, they don't even know how to make rope properly." It was a joke, sarcasm, a moment of bravado. The messenger ran to the Winter Palace. The Tsar began signing the pardon, but then he paused. Did Ryleyev say anything after he fell? Yes, Your Majesty. He said that in Russia, they don't even know how to make rope. The Tsar tore up the pardon. In that case, he said, let us prove him wrong. The next day, Ryleyev was hanged again. This time, the rope did not break. One sentence, one sarcastic joke, and it cost him his life. The moment the words are out, you cannot take them back, and you never know which sentence will be the one that destroys you. So here's how you actually use this law. 3 principles. 1. In negotiations, let silence do the work. Make your offer, then stop talking. The first person to speak, no, loses. Let them fill the gap. Let them get nervous. Let them talk themselves into accepting your terms. 2. When someone asks your opinion, give less than they expect. Don't explain everything you know. Don't justify. Don't overshare. Say what's necessary, then stop. The less you say, the more they'll assume you know. 3. Master the pause. When someone challenges you, don't react immediately. Let the silence hang. Count to 3, then respond. That pause makes everything you say sound more deliberate, more powerful. Because here's the truth. Words are free. And because they're free, we waste them. We fill every gap. We explain when we should be silent. We justify when we should let our actions speak. But the powerful, they know that scarcity creates value. The less they say, the more every word is worth. Andy Warhol said it best. I learned that you actually have more power when you shut up. His interviews were famous for this. Journalists would ask him deep questions about his art, and he would give one-word answers. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. The journalists would twist themselves into knots trying to interpret his silence. They'd write entire essays analyzing what he meant, and all he'd said was almost nothing. The less he said, the more mysterious he seemed, the more valuable his work became. Law 4. Always say less than necessary. Chuko Liang sat in silence and defeated an army of 150,000. Louis XIV ruled for 72 years because no one could read his face. Ryleyev made one joke and lost his life. The lesson? Every word you say is a risk. Every silence is an opportunity. The person who talks the least controls the room. Next week, Law 5, guard your reputation with your life. We're going deep into why your reputation is the only thing that actually matters and how one mistake can destroy decades of work. Subscribe if you haven't. This series is just getting started.